So C++ is one of the most widely used programming languages in the world. And in most universities, it's actually the first programming language that's taught to the students, to computer science students, computer engineering, IT, or anything related. I but well, it's really efficient, it's really fast, it's very reliable, and I personally think it's a great language to start out with because it teaches you the basics very well. Uh, And yeah, I think you should learn it, even if it's not your first language, like as your first, as your second. I think at some point you should learn C++. And there are a lot of courses online, but I personally think textbooks are the best way to learn programming language. And today I want to share with you this very cool, very good, very cool textbook that we actually studied it in the first year in my programming course, programming 1 and programming 2. And yeah, it's a really good book, and I think it's probably one of the best books for C++, and it's called C++ from Control Structures to Objects, and it's by Tony Gladdis. And it's quite long. It's 1,200, about 1,200 pages, but you can go through it because it's really fun. I mean, it's everything is present in a very easy way, a simple way to understand. I mean, it's just great, and I'm gonna talk more about why I think it's so great. So here I have actually converted it to the PDF because now I can highlight stuff, and I like it this way. And uh, this file is what I used in my first year in programming 1 and programming 2. So you're gonna see a lot of highlights. So if we jump to the first chapter of the book, so this is the first chapter, and it's one of the reasons why I think it's so great, because when I first started college, I barely know, and I mean I knew about computers, but I barely knew how programming worked, and this kind of taught me just this simple chapter. So first he says, why do we program? What's the purpose of programming? And here you can see I've highlighted a program is a set of instructions that compute. I think this is very basic information, but at the time it wasn't for me. And here it talks about hardware, and this was very interesting for me. So it talks about the CPU, main memory. Main memory is RAM, and the secondary storage devices like HDD, input device. It's really good, and it talks about first on the CPU in a little more detail. And here's a picture of the ENIAC. So this was actually one of the first digital computers, I believe, and I think it was funded by the US military or something. But yeah, I mean, it kind of gives you a nice little introduction to computers, to the CPU, and here's a diagram of the CPU, the control unit, the arithmetic and logic unit. I mean, this unit is basically for comparison. So logic unit, like if is one bigger than 2, yes. So this part is responsible, and as you can see, the input goes through the CPU, which has two units, a control unit and arithmetic and logic unit, and it comes and it produces an output. And here it talks about main memory. As you can see, I have highlighted a lot of stuff, and here's secondary storage. I mean, it just talks about so many things, and then it talks about what's a program, and these things were really cool. I mean, it talks about machine language. It talks about assembly and assembler, and just the basic structure. And here, as you can see, it even talks about a lot of other programming languages. I mean, when I first started, it was great because it kind of gave me a very good introduction. And so this is chapter 1, and chapter 2 is basically an introduction to the language of C++. And yeah, it gives you a lot of programs, as you can see, just basic programs that just output whatever you want. It has a lot of here is talk about the preprocessor directive, which is including packages and stuff, so variables, literals, and it basically gives you a very nice it gives you a very nice introduction to the language of C++. And if you go to the next chapters, we have the third chapter. We have, well, more stuff, of course. So we have the cin object, which is used for getting input from user, or we have some mathematical expressions like taking the sum of two numbers. And if you go to the next chapter, so if you go to chapter 4, it talks about, I think it talks about the if statement, the else statement, yeah, the logical operators, the greater than, less than, and as you can see, I just highlighted everything. The if statement, I mean, it just goes, it gives you kind of a nice diagram. It kind of goes along with you. I think it just gives you, it even gives you the flowchart. I think it just gives you a very good, how can I say it, a very good, it just step, it gives you step-by-step instructions on how to do what you want to do uh, in all of the exercises. And if we jump, so we have making decisions. Oh, this is making decisions, sorry. So we have loops and files, and this was a really nice chapter. I remember reading this before the teacher even started explained it, and I was fascinated. Like, loops were really cool. And then we have functions and arrays. And then I really like this chapter. Sorry about that. So chapter 8 is, it just gives you a very nice, I would say, introduction to algorithms. I mean, it gives you some linear search, like linear. It tells you what linear searches, binary searches, and they're basic, but they're really good. And they go into more advanced. So for example, pointers, and then we have C strings, which are basically strings from the language C that we still can use. I don't know why, I don't know much about it now. And then we have some advanced file operation introduction, and then we even have OOP, so it even talks about OOP. Now I don't want to go look inheritance, polymorphism, and then exceptions, templates, linked lists, stacks, and queues. I mean, it's just got the whole package, recursion, binary trees. And if you don't know much about computer science, you will definitely learn about all of these in the future. If you're studying computer science or anything related, you will learn about this at some point. But the coolest thing that I want to talk about, that my favorite part of this book, are the exercises. So by studying the exercises, I actually I just really easily got straight A's in both courses, programming 1 and programming 2, because after each chapter it just goes. So first it gives you kind of short answers, so it can ask you some questions and then fill in the blank, and then it gives you kind of a code and says, maybe find a mistake in it, find a logical error or something, and then true, false. Here's it, find the error. And it also gives you some exercises to program. So he say, do your own linked list print, list reverse, list search. So it gives you a lot, and the answers are actually not in the book, but they're available online. I'll try to include them. I'll also include this book uh, in the description of this video. I really think if you want to learn, I mean, I also have to say that there are some important subjects that this book doesn't talk about, so which might annoy an intermediate programmer. But I think for someone in the beginning phase of learning how to program, this is perfect, and I think you should follow it. It's long, but it's really fun. I'm sure you will not get bored studying this book, and it will just teach you all the basics. And I honestly think this book gave me a really good foundation in programming, and I think without it, I wouldn't be as good as I am now. Uh, yeah, so if you want to check it out, the link to the book is in the description. So I just want to share my thoughts on this book for maybe some confused beginners who don't know where to start programming. I mean, certainly there are other good books, certainly there are other great programming languages to start, but personally, this was and is my favorite. So yeah.